Good morning. It's Saturday morning, January the 15th, 2022. It's a joy to be able to share some thoughts with you from the scriptures today. I'm Pastor Mike Custer, the pastor at Bible Baptist Church in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and this morning we'll read from Proverbs chapter 20, this morning verse 23 and 24, two verses today because we've covered verse 23 and the contents of it just recently, and so we'll go on to verse 24 this morning. 23 says, "Divers' weights are an abomination to the Lord, and a false balance is not good." Back in verse 10, we talked about this very fact, that same principle is presented in verse 10 that talks about how it's an abomination to God for people to cheat each other, and honesty is so important for individuals relative to their integrity. God is a God of truth, and so he makes an issue of such things. Verse 24 says, "Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way?" And this verse digs a little bit deeper into the human condition, and it sort of addresses the idea that we don't know as much as we think we know. We think we can figure things out, but man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? We just need God's direction day by day in our life. We don't know what kind of things will come and happen. And the fact of the matter is, even by the time you have breakfast or by the time you show up at work, you've already made probably a dozen or more important decisions. What will I eat today? And what will I do for lunchtime? And what route will I take to get to my job? And which car will I take this morning? And all those different questions and decisions. And God knows every one of them. God knows what the outcome will be, and we don't know what the outcome will be. We don't understand our own way. And that's why it's so important for us to just submit to God and let him have his way in our life and trust him to guide our steps. Submit to the Lord. He'll let you know. He'll give you peace about what you should do. You can't figure things out, and that's one reason that trust and submission to God are so important. He knows everything from the beginning to the end, and we need to learn to live by faith and be people who trust God and submit to God and allow him to direct our steps, because we don't have any idea how things could turn out for us one way or the other. I've heard many people talk about how they lamented the fact that their trip on the highway was slowed down for some reason. They were stopped, or they ran out of gas, or they had a repair that needed to be made or something, and it wasn't very long after that they realized that if they had been a little farther down the road, they would have been in a horrendous accident that occurred just a few miles up the road ahead of them. And this is, I think, an example of divine providence and God seeing and God knowing what's going to happen, and him guarding the steps of his people, his children. Just let God guide your steps. Just trust him, and don't be upset when things don't go the way you want them to, because you don't really know what's behind it anyway. And just trust the Lord. Just submit to him. That's always the best decision to make for life.